In this tutorial, we'll cover the basics of video effects within Avid Media Composer. To start, I want to point out the Effects Palette tab. This tab is typically below the Bins tab on your left-hand side. You can apply video effects while in the Edit workspace, so you can click on the tab and a list of video effects will appear, and you can resize it as needed. Though it's easier to work with video effects while in the Effects workspace over here on the right-hand side. We're going to work under the Blend category called 3D Warp. You can click on the 3D Warp icon and drag and drop it onto the video clip that you want to apply the effect to. You can also select the clip that's in your timeline and double-click the effect up here in the Effects Palette window, and it will appear then on the selected clip. Additionally, in the Effects Palette tab, there are effects for transitions, audio track effects, and audio clip effects as well. Look through these tabs and see what the effect palette has to offer here. There's much more than what we're going to cover briefly in this tutorial. So we applied the 3D Warp video effect, and I like this effect most because of the parameters that can be set and adjusted all within this single effect. You'll see that the effect icon next to the 3D Warp matches the effect icon placed onto the clip here. The green square next to this effect means the effect will play back in real time without it needing to be rendered. If the square is blue, however, it must be rendered in order to play back in real time. For better playback speeds and to avoid lagging issues, I do strongly recommend rendering effects. Now we want to make adjustments to this video effect. So we will make sure that the clip is selected here, telling Avid that we want to make adjustments, and also that the blue cursor is placed over the clip as well. Again, we're telling Media Composer this is the effect I want to make these adjustments to. Now you have these buttons here above your timeline window, like the Motion Effects Editor and Effect Mode. Now we're going to click on the Effect Mode button. That brings up the Effect Editor window, which will appear, that has the parameters within it of the effect that you can now adjust. Up here in the graph area, you can set and move keyframes to animate an effect. As I scrub through it, you can see the video playing in the source monitor window. I'm going to find a point within this clip that I want to set a keyframe to start to adjust these parameters. And you set a keyframe by hitting the keyboard shortcut apostrophe. Now, in this action-packed parkour video I'm going to be working on, I want to add more excitement with this kind of quick zoom in. So to achieve this, I need to adjust the scaling of the footage to add a zoom in. I'm going to click the caret here to drop down the parameters that I can adjust. You have here the X and the Y axis to adjust and the options to keep it also as a fixed aspect ratio or not. This footage is sized appropriately to begin with, so we're going to leave the fixed aspect ratio checked. So as I click and drag the knob here for the X axis, you can see the image zoom in and out, and that the Y axis information is matching the adjustment as well since we have the fixed aspect checked. Besides just sliding the knob by clicking and dragging, you can type in a number by clicking on the number here. Now don't freak out when it scales to 400. Just type in the number and then hit enter. And so I'm going to type in 100 to get us back to our original size. You can also click the knob and use your left and right arrows to move it one digit at a time. Then I'm going to find a point to start this zoom in at. So I'm going to find a specific moment that occurs where this zoom in can be extremely impactful because I want to zoom in. So I need to establish a keyframe point where the image will go from 100, the original size, to a zoomed in image. So I'm going to set keyframes here at 100 by hitting the apostrophe key on my keyboard. This is telling Media Composer up until this point the image will be scaled to 100. You can also see that once I've set keyframes in this graph area, a keyframe appears here and under the source monitor as well. Then I'm going to use the keyboard shortcuts to find the perfect moment to zoom into. So J, K, L are the rewind, play, pause, fast forward. The left and right arrows will move you frame by frame, and then of course the space bar plays and stops. So I'm going to hit the apostrophe on my keyboard to set a new set of keyframes and adjust the scaling to 150 to create this zoom in effect. Now I'm going to watch this back and see how it looks with this new zoom in. You can see that he gets kind of chopped off a little bit in the top of the frame, so I'm going to need to adjust the position of this footage to keep him within the frame. You can do this by clicking on the second keyframe so that it's highlighted, and Avid knows this is the keyframe that I want to apply these changes to. Then I can drag the image around to a framing of my liking, and you'll see that this positioning adjustments is being tracked by this gray line that is now formed connecting our two position points. In the effect editor window, you can see two parameters that I've adjusted with this video effect that are both green. So you can click on the caret next to position and see the adjustments I've made when dragging the image. Now I'll watch it back and make sure he is in frame. So it looks good, but I want to zoom back out to the original image size for the remainder of the scene. So what I can do is copy and paste the first set of keyframes, since those keyframes have the parameters already established. It'll save me time in doing so. So I'll highlight the keyframe, hit Command or Control C to copy it, and then find the spot where I want the image to be fully back to its original size, like right here where he lands, and then I'll paste the keyframe by hitting Command or Control V. Now I'll play it back and see how it looks. Oh, not too shabby, but we can definitely make this better because right now we have a zoom in and then it zooms right back out. But I want it to zoom in and hold for a beat, and then as he flips through the air, and then zoom back out quickly as he lands. So I'm going to need to create this zoom hold, and I can do this by copying and pasting that second set of keyframes so the image will hold at that specific scale in at that 150. So now let's watch it back. All right, so I think we're kind of getting there. I now want to fix the pacing of the zoom so that it feels more action-packed. You can move a keyframe right or left by holding down the Option or Alt key on your keyboard. That will give you the little pointer hand, and you can then drag those keyframes as needed to adjust the timing. Once you've created this good, great zoom in and hold out effect here, you may want to save it for later to add more excitement in the video. So you can save this effect by first staying organized and creating an effects bin. And then drag and drop the effects icon from your effect editor window into the bin. Then rename the effect so you know what it is. And now all the settings you have within the keyframes that are within your 3D warp effect are saved and can be easily applied directly onto any other clip by simply dragging and dropping it onto a clip, or selecting the clip and double-clicking the effect in the bin. So troubleshooting here, if you've set your parameters before you've set a new keyframe, it's going to apply it to the new and the old keyframe. So if I find a point here in my footage where I'm going to adjust the parameters within scaling to create a zoom in effect, and then I adjust it to 150, then I hit the apostrophe on the keyboard to set the new keyframes, you'll see that both the new and the old ones are both set to 150 and there's no zoom in effect. So you can fix this by adjusting the first keyframe, that should be 100, that is now 150, back to 100 by clicking on the keyframe and changing the scaling back to 100 to reset the settings for that keyframe. Now let's take a look at adding another common video effect to adjust your aspect ratios here, or using it maybe as a black solid layer. So let's create a new video track. So right click, new video track, or hit Command or Control Y. Then go back to your effect palette and navigate to the film category. Select the 185 mask and drag and drop it onto your V2 track. Now, as I scrub through, I'm not seeing any sort of changes here, and the reason why is because the source monitor button is still on V1 and therefore isn't showing anything on V2. So I just need to click it, and now I can see the mask that I've added on the V2 track, and this is adding even more intensity to this action-packed scene. So this mask is sitting on the V2 track, expanding the entire sequence here, while the 3D warp is sitting on the V1 track on that specific clip. So if you ever need to go back into an effect, you can do so by clicking on the effect on the clip and going back up to effect mode, and that will bring up your effect editor. If you want to bring up the mask settings, select it. If you want to bring up the mask settings, select the filler on V2 and then go to your effect mode, and you can adjust the color of the mask, the width, the height. You can animate it to add even more drama to the scene. Just make sure that the source monitor button is turned on for that V2 track so you can see your adjustments. If you need to add another effect to a clip, you can do so. So for example, I'm going to apply a flop here on this clip that already has the 3D warp on it. And you can add another effect by holding down the Option or Alt key, dragging the effect onto the clip, or double clicking it. If you just drag the effect onto the clip without holding down Option or Alt, it will replace the effect that was originally there. So you can see if you have multiple effects on a clip or nested effects by double clicking the clip here. And as you can see, there isn't any effects nested on the 1.1 or 1.2 track. So I need to hold down the Option or Alt key and reapply the flop effect. Then I'll double click the V1 clip, and you can see that the 3D warp is nested underneath the flop effect. Depending on the order of your nested effects, some effects will affect other effects. Say that 10 times fast. Then, if you double click the V1 clip again, the nested tracks will close back up. Now, if you want to speed up or slow down a clip, you would apply a time warp effect. You have some presets already created here for you, like going from 0 to 100 real quick, or a freeze frame as well. If you apply the 100 full speed to 0%, that's just a still image, and go into the motion effects editor, click the green running man icon, open up the speed graph, you'll see the keyframes that are already established that go from 100%, which is again full speed, to 0%, which is the still image. Setting speeds on the graph to -100 is full speed, but just in reverse. You can add additional keyframes to ramp up or down the speed, and holding down the Option or Alt will allow you to move the keyframes left or right. To render this effect or other effects, locate this render icon and click. Set the drive to your media drive or the drive of the project you're working off of, then click OK. You'll see that it says 2 effects will be rendered, and this is because of the clips that are selected and the position of the blue cursor. If at any point you need to cancel a render, you can type Command or Control period. And as you can see, once rendered, the green or blue square is now gone as the effect is now rendered. If you make any adjustments to the effects that have been rendered, a blue or green square will reappear and that effect will need to be re-rendered. So that wraps up, or should I say warps up, our brief tutorial on video effects in Avid Media Composer. Thanks for watching.